In this activity, we are going to be looking at interpreting information that is being presented to us in a histogram. So if you look over on the left-hand side up towards the top, we have high temperatures in 3 different cities. The high temperature for each day in 2013 is displayed for 3 different cities on each of the 3 histograms displayed below. We have city A, that is upper left. We have city B, that's the upper right histogram, and then we have city C, which is the histogram below the first 2. First thing I want to know is how many values are being displayed in each histogram. If you were paying attention when we read through what these are histograms of, hopefully you will have noticed that this is the high temperature for each day in 2013. So that means that they are displaying 365 days or 365 values. The next thing I'm interested in figuring out is the context. In context, what does it mean that city A has a histogram where the height of the bar over the range 45 to 55 is 60. So I'm looking just here at city A, and I want to know what the meaning is of the bar over the range 45 to 55. I want to know what it means that that goes up to 60. With the bar going up to 60, what that means is that city A had 60 days in 2013 where the high temperature was between 45 and 55 degrees. Question number 3. Which city had the most days with a high temperature of less than 32 degrees Fahrenheit? Looking at the 3 different histograms, when I look at city A, they didn't have any days with a high temperature below 45, so it's not city A. City B had just over 60 days that were between 35 and 45, so that's still not quite right. But 25 to 30, they had just over 20 days. When I look at city C, they didn't have any days that were lower than 45 degrees either. So this would have to be city B. Question 4, which city had the most days over 90 degrees? All right, so looking at city A, they didn't have any days that were over 85 degrees. City B had just over 60 days that were between 85 and 95. And then they had just over 20 days that were between 95 and 105. City C had, let's look here. But looks like right about 10 or 11 days that were between 85 and 95. Just over 20 days that were in between 95 and 105. So between city B and city C, I'm going to go with city B had the most days over 90 degrees Fahrenheit. All right, moving over to the right-hand page, question number 5, approximate the median in each of the 3 graphs. Well, in City A, I noticed that this graph is basically symmetric, and so the median is going to be 50% of the data on either side. So in City A, my median is about 65 degrees. The histogram for City B is also approximately symmetric, so I want to split this so that I have half the data on either side, and that one appears to be roughly at 65 degrees Fahrenheit as well. City C is a little bit harder. It would be really helpful if I had a list of all 365 values and I could cross them off and find the exact middle. But since we have the frequency listed off to the side, I can use that to help me approximate the middle. So the first thing that I notice is that there are 60 values between 45 and 55. So I'm going to try to approximate 60 values over on the right-hand side. Okay, so we're just over 20 here, right about 10 here. So there's about 30 values. And let's see. So taking it to about here would get me enough to cancel out with this over here. Again, we're approximating here. Okay, and then we have approximately 120 values here between 55 and 65. We have just a little bit more than that here between 65 and 75. And don't forget, we have this little bit here. And so I'm going to make a guess if I'm finding the halfway point between those. That halfway point is going to be roughly 65 degrees. Or yeah, right here. It's probably going to be just a little bit over, but that's still just approximately 65 degrees. Again, with City C, we had to do some approximation. I can't find the exact median unless I have the raw data, but I can approximate that it is close to 65 degrees. So it turns out that all three cities, City A, City B, City C, all have approximately the same median. Okay, now in question number 6, I want to try to summarize what these histograms are telling me about the weather in each of these cities in 2013. So what's it like to live there? And then the last question that we have on question number 6 is, which city would you prefer to live in? And that's kind of a case-by-case basis. There's no right or wrong answer there. So for City A, the thing I notice is that they spend about an equal amount of time between 45 and 55 as they do between 75 and 85. Most of their days, looks like, more than 240 days out of the year are spent somewhere between 55 and 75. So if I was going to categorize this city's weather, I would say that they don't have a very big range. It's pretty moderate in this city year-round. Okay, now we want to look at City B. What does this histogram tell me about the weather in City B? Well, they spent about half their weather below 65 and half their weather days above 65 degrees. They had some days that were really cold. They had some days that were really hot. Honestly, when I look at this histogram, it reminds me a little bit of, the weather here in Indianapolis. We've got cold winter days, hot summer days, and those nice, mild 55 to 75 degree days in the spring and the fall. There just weren't as many of those. So City B, I'm going to say it has the most variation from the three cities, cold winters and hot summers. And then the last city whose weather we need to describe is City C. First thing I notice about City C is they did not have any days that were below 45 degrees. Their weather looks really similar to City A, but whereas City A didn't have any days over 85 degrees, in City C, they did have some days between 85 and 95, and they had some days between 95 and 105. So in City C, it gets hotter than in City A, but it's still pretty moderate temperatures. No cold or freezing temperatures like City B. Okay, it's decision time. Which city would you prefer to live in? Well, for me, I'm going to say I would prefer to live in City C. I don't really like cold weather very much. I do like to be able to go to the pool, so I do want my weather to get nice and hot sometimes, but not spend too much time out there. So I'm going to go with City C. All right, 2 questions to go. Question number 7. Which city had the greatest mean high temperature in 2013? So when we're looking at the mean, we are talking about the average. I can't calculate the exact average, again, because I don't have the raw data for these cities, but I can use these histograms and the distributions to make a close approximation. In both City A and City B, those 2 cities have almost perfectly symmetrical distributions. And when you have symmetrical distributions, the median is going to be exactly the same as the mean. So in City A and in City B, the mean and the median is going to be about 65 degrees. When I get down to City C, though, and I look at that one, this one is not symmetric. We said the median was about 65 degrees, and we went through that process just a couple minutes ago. One of the things that I noticed is that in City C, there are days when the temperature got fairly hot. This is said to be a tail, and it's on the upper end on the right-hand side. And we would say that this data is skewed to the right. That's where that tail is over there. And when a distribution is skewed to the right, when it has a tail off to the right, this is going to pull the mean up higher than the median. If this graph had the tail off to the other end on the smaller side, then we would say that it was skewed to the left. And in that case, the mean would be smaller than the median. So the skew and the direction that the mean is going to be pulled is always in the direction that the tail is. So because City A and City B, the mean and the median are both the same, the city that has the greatest mean high temperature would be City C. Last but not least, question number 8. Which city has the smallest mean? Well, we already discussed that City C has the largest mean because it's skewed to the right. All 3 cities had the same median temperature, and in City A and City B, because of their symmetric flow to their frequency graphs, their histograms, the mean and the median are exactly the same. So the answer to question C is both City A and City B have the smallest mean because they are exactly the same at 65 degrees.